Hey, what's up, Shadow Priest buddies? So, today we're gonna talk about corruption, because, there's some stuff about corruption that I don't think everyone realizes yet, and I want to talk about it today. And also I want to figure out how to get corruption to work in the favor of Shadow Priest. You know, we really gobble up, crit and haste. But disappointingly, you know, we're looking at Infinite Stars is like BIS, Echoing Void is BIS, and, you know, sure, they put out huge big numbers, but it's kind of boring. But Shadow really interacts with crit and haste, and it would be in our best interest if we could find a way to get corruption with crit haste to work for us. But, you know, if you look at charts on everybody's websites, I'll link a few references, good sources for this stuff in the description. But it's saying, hey, you know what, retard, don't go crit haste, Infinite Stars all the way, Echoing Void all the way. That's BIS, it's very clear. Couple of things before we get into this. Corruption is being changed on a regular basis. Blizzard is tuning it. Anything I put out here today is likely to change and most likely to change. I'm going to show you some of the thought processes going on, and you'll be able to hopefully do this on your own even if I don't make a new video about corruption. I'm going to teach you how to fish rather than giving you just the answer. So I'm not convinced Infinite Stars is BIS, and I went through a thought experiment to kind of prove that maybe it's not just straight BIS like we think. I'm going to share you some of the stuff that I found. So let's get into it, and I'll teach you what I'm seeing might play out. So let's start with the corruption values. I do think these numbers in this chart is before the nerfs to Infinite Stars. It could be updated, but I'm not sure. Either way, Infinite Stars is still really, really strong, even though Blizzard did make adjustments to it. Same thing with Echoing Void. I don't know if there'll be adjustments to that one. But Infinite Stars is clearly ahead, right? It's not even close. I mean, let's go find our crit haste. You know, we got crit down here. It's not even close. Haste proc down here. Kind of unfortunate, because this would have been fun for us. This stuff, less fun, but bigger numbers, which I find dull. Single target, kind of the same story. Changes a little bit, but not too much. But guess what? This isn't what you want to use. And you gotta think past just a number, and I'm going to show you why. So I ran some sims, and I said, alright, Infinite Stars, I don't know if it shows you this here. Infinite Stars comes with a lot of corruption. Higher corruption than the other pieces. And I'll show you some of the sims, and I'll try to see if it shows me in the tooltips. Okay, we got tooltips over here, so I can show you. So this first sim is, don't freak out, we're never going to do 109k single target, so don't get excited. This is a futuristic sim that I did, a situation. I did a patchwork 3 boss. This is going to show us what our scaling is like in a multi-target fight. This is the way that you need to think about Shadow Priest, because in the fights that we're going to shine on, you want to shine even more, as best you can. So I run multiple sim styles. This is one of them. It's not the only one that I run, but I run this one quite frequently. So if we look at this stuff that I have here, I did a baseline down here, okay, without my current character with no corruption. So this is pieces that I had corruption on, so I just added some baseline stuff in here. And then I started taking those 3 pieces, and these are the, remember my loot strategy video, hey, if we can farm a tall wrists and a freehold belt and the hyper-threaded boots from Mechagon, yeah, we were coming back to that. So I said, alright, what if I got 2 racing pulses? So I have a racing pulse here, and take note, it gives 35 corruption, okay? And if I look at this one, 35 corruption, because I did 2 of them. So times 2 racing pulses is a total of 70 corruption. So every set that I built here is a total of 70 corruption. And the reason why I did that, if you look at Infinite Stars, Infinite Stars rank 3, which is like the huge mega BIS, right? It's 75 corruption just for the one corrupted piece, okay? So that means you can't wear anything else. You can only wear infinite stars. That means I couldn't, if I'm trying to keep to a budget of corruption because I can't wear over a certain number, these can't have corruption and these can't have corruption. So just understand that's the kind of scenarios that I'm building. If you notice on the right hand side, it's saying this would be a 40 net gain for me. I'm playing with 40 corruption. Just wearing 1 infinite stars is 45. I tried to get them really close so they're similar. So they should stack up and be apples and apples in comparison. So Racing Pulse is supposed to be really good for us. This is where it mapped out. And if I click on this, by the way, it'll give me the net difference to infinite stars. So 2 Racing Pulses is really close, at least in this 3-boss multi-dot type of sim, to infinite stars. Why? Because infinite stars is mostly a single target type of trait. It's not going to be as good in a multi-target situation. So then I started doing some more playing around, and I'm like, well, what other sets of corruption could I potentially get to compete with infinite stars even more? So I'm not going to go through everything here. We'll be here all night. But I found the combination of Gushing Wounds, pairing it, let me find it. So Gushing Wounds right here, it's only 15 corruption. So guess what? If I can get Gushing Wounds for 15, I can add more corruption. So the risks, I put crit gain from all sources with the Gushing Wounds, and that's only 20 corruption, so I can keep going. Let's get corruption on this piece too. And I was even able, within the budget of infinite stars, I was able to build the set, the same total corruption, with crit, Gushing Wounds, and another crit. So triple crit plus Gushing Wounds. So let's go back to infinite stars. I'm gonna click on this. This is like 11k DPS more in a multi-target situation. This is BIS. This isn't even on that chart. Let's go back to the chart. Gushing Wound, way down the list here. Look, it's way down. Would you think that was good if you got it? Hope you're not cleansing that off your gear. And the crit from all sources, where is that in the list? It's down. There might be a percent crit. Either way, it's down here. Okay, so compare this to these, but you know, I think Warcraft Priests did a really good job in kind of saying this. They said, think about it in terms of DPS or total output per corruption value. They're absolutely correct, because you can wear multiple of these. It's just hard to understand really what that means until we start kind of putting it out on paper. So go back to this. Again, Infinite Stars by itself, 45 corruption. For 45 corruption, I could wear all this and get a shit ton more DPS. And some other good combinations, Echoing Void paired with the crit from all sources. So 1 Echoing Void with 1 crit was pretty close as well. It's within 3500 DPS on like 100k sim. It's pretty good as well. Echoing Void still quite good. But you can't stack a lot of them, so pair it with that crit from all sources. Definitely really good corruption to build sets with, is this crit all sources. So I also did Racing Pulse is really good for us as well. So I did a Racing Pulse with crit. So 2 crits in a Racing Pulse, 45 corruption, really close as well. So just keep a track of this. Racing Pulse is good. The crit from all sources is good. Echoing Void is good, but you're going to need to pair it with some of this crit stuff I'm talking about. And if I just stacked just crit from all sources, that's this one. Nothing fancy. Just the crit one. So crit. And this one is... that has racing in it. I might have messed that one up. Okay, we'll ignore my mistake. Alright. The other sim I did is, what if I stacked Gushing on a bunch? So Gushing Wounds, Gushing Wounds, Gushing Wounds, Gushing Wounds. It's also really, really good. It's really close to these. So something to think about. I'm going to show you how to run these sims yourself. These things are going to change, but I'm looking for Gushing Wounds. I'm looking for crit from all sources. It'd be nice to get a racing pulse, but I don't even need that. I'm addicted to haste. That's kind of why I want that one. Haste from all sources is down here as well. It's not doing as good as the crit from all sources, and I'll show you. So this line is all haste from all sources, and up above that, the crit from all source stack was about 4k ahead, so the haste is good, but what I'm seeing in our sims is we're getting enough base haste from the game at this point. I always talk about haste with Shadow Priest is you want a lot of haste, but you want to get enough haste to build a foundation, and after that foundation, go crit, crit, crit. But don't sacrifice haste to get your crit. You need both. But the exponential amount that you're pushing for is going to be crit. So think crit, more haste, but you want both. So what about single target? Because infinite stars is a single target trait, right? So I did a single target sim. By the way, ignore these traits up here. I was too lazy to change them. It won't change the answer, I promise. Alright, single target. So single target, my favorite build that I had was the Gushing. That's this one. With the crit from all sources. Okay, so Gushing, crit, crit, crit. With the 45 corruption. I'm going to click on this. So my favorite build that was really good for the multi-dot is super close to infinite stars even on a single target parse. Look, there's infinite stars. It's only 1000 DPS ahead, and this is a 67k futuristic sim. I mean, it's still a lot. Sure, infinite stars is going to be good for a single target, but if you only could have one set of corrupted gear set, I'd want the Gushing Wounds and the crit from all sources because it's still very competitive single target and it's gonna wreck on multi. I also think that maybe we're more likely to get those pieces, who knows. Just get what you can get, right? But don't think you're unlucky because you didn't get infinite stars. That's kind of the point of this. Same thing with the Echoing Void that's down here. So it's all super close to the build that I've kind of found with the Gushing Wounds and crit from all sources. And I wanted to see, can I challenge myself, could I find something that beats infinite stars? Because I'm so sick of this infinite stars trend. So actually, Gushing Wounds is so efficient at the moment. Hopefully they don't hotfix this. You could stack 1, 2, 3, 4. If you manage to get 4 Gushing Wounds, it does slightly more than infinite stars, but here's the kicker. That's still only 30 corruption. It's still only 30. Infinite stars, you're running 45 corruption. So I maybe could have added another one. Maybe I could get another piece of gear. I think I tried to avoid gear that would be tough to get it on, so I don't know how realistic that is, but yeah, Gushing Wounds is like fucking BIS, okay, with the crit. This is disgusting. So again, think of corruption as a set. Like, don't look at it just like on one item, or think of like an old tier set, like a 2 set or a 4 set. It's not about the one trait. It's going to be about a group of corruption that you custom build your own set of gear. Blizzard might have nailed this design. I think if corruption gear fails us, it's going to be in the acquisition method. If we can farm our ass off and not get the item at all, then it's going to feel RNG and going to be very disappointing. But if we can obtain the corruption and eventually build out our favorite set of corruption gear, I think it definitely has some huge potential. I was a naysayer of the system, and right now it's wrecking all the parses and the sims and stuff, or the Warcraft logs, but hopefully that normalizes over a couple of weeks in the future and doesn't destroy the game long term. And I'm gonna hope that we all can build our sets and the game will be just fine. So the next thing I'm gonna get into is how can you do this yourself and see what kind of gear set you can make that maybe beats what I've done. I'm going to be doing this for days and weeks, and I might find some new combos. Also, the hotfixes and tuning could change the answer, and I want you guys to be able to do this yourself. So if you want to stick around for that, then I'll get into that next. Alright, so I'm going to teach you guys how to do a raid bot sim. I'm going to link the website for you and the add-on that I'm going to be using, which is simc, a simcraft add-on. This is easier than it looks, I promise. Once you do it once, you'll be good to go. And if you don't already sim yourself, I highly suggest today is the day you learn how to do it. And in 8.3, it's definitely worth your time. Alright, let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I already have the add-on installed. So I'm going to type /simc, which is SIMC, and that's short for Simcraft. And what it's doing is it's going to give me a string for my character. This is everything about me. It says, hey, I'm a void elf, and I'm this item, I'm this level, and all my traits. You can set your essences, set your talents to what you want before you do this. So if you want to see how things might change with a misery build, which is very common to use in the raid this time around, do all those changes before you do the simc export. So you get this window, and the only purpose of the window is for you to copy it. So I'm going to do Control-C to copy, and then I'm going to hit OK. And then we're going to go to raid bots with that now that we've copied it. Okay, so from raid bots, there's different types of sims here. The one that we're going to be doing for these futuristic things is Top Gear doesn't work for us because we don't have these items. Like, obviously, they're not in my bags. Top Gear is good for simming the stuff you already own, and it works the same way, by the way. Droptimizer, by the way, is good to sim just the raid drops and cool stuff like that, so I would check that out. I actually use it all the time. But for this, we're going to do a gear compare. This is going to put in items that exist in the game, but we don't own them right now. So, and they're not specific to like one raid area or dungeons. We're going to choose the items, and we're going to choose the corruption. To do that, go to gear compare. And in this screen, you can type your character name up in here, but I highly suggest the simc add-on. It just works a lot better in my opinion, because you can change your talents and your build on the fly. So I'm going to do Control-V for paste. And this is the same string that I got, you know, from the other screen. So you can see my name and yada yada stuff about me and all the stuff in my bags and whatever. So then we're going to scroll down. And it says gear set name. Now, when you're simming a corruption, I highly recommend you either do a simc export with no corruption equipped whatsoever, so you can get a baseline. Because when you sim corruption, you gotta remember, I might only be able to wear, you know, 70 corruption total right now. And in the future, that would be some other number. So I highly recommend building a baseline sim. The easiest way is, again, like I said, just make a set with no corruption gear and do that export. But I didn't do that, and right now I have Echoing Void pants. So I would be like, let's add different pair of pants. So the tailoring pants, I don't even know the names of them. Hold on, I do own them. Eldritch something. So I'm gonna choose Eldritch, however you fucking say it, Eldritch. And I'm gonna say whatever I have. These are crafted pants, so I have to tell it what I got for stats. Of course, I should have just equipped this, would have been faster. Whatever, say those are my pants. 470, no corruption, because they can't actually happen on crafted gear. And they do have a socket, because they're crafted. So I'm gonna say I'm wearing 50 crit. And what else am I wearing that's corrupted? I think just my offhand. So again, I should have just used my other offhand. So sec. We'll do add item. and this is my baseline sim, so I'm not going to put any of this stuff on here. In the description, if you're going to do a bunch of sims, name them really well. So this is my baseline, no corruption. And then what we can do is do a duplicate gear set. And then what we're going to do is add items. So the atoll risks, I have the item wish list add-on that I had in my other video. And I could pull that up and say, all right, well, let's pretend we got risks from atoll. So risks void drenched something. So type in add item. Those aren't the atoll risks, but they'll work. Pretend they are. And then we'll do, say we got for, I'm wearing, I want to use something similar to what I'm wearing. I'm wearing 450 is fine. So 450. And let's say, you can go through the list and read these, okay, if you hover over them. Increase the amount of haste you gain from all sources. This is a decent trait for us. I showed the crit is better, but maybe things will change over time. Obviously we're not going to sim the avoidance. So you go through here and, you know, let's say we got a racing pulse. And I can keep adding items to this. So the freehold belt is sailcloth something. Pretty bad when I'm starting to remember the names of these things. I'm trying to use stuff similar to what I'm wearing at the moment. And of course this bugged out, but if it would let me click. Alright. Let's say the tentacle. Hey, tentacle bro. It should have been good for us, right? It's our old shadow tentacle bro. And I can keep going, but I'm not going to. I already gave you guys the answer. So from here, before we hit compare items, we can decide if we want to do like a 3-boss patchwork. I think that's good representation for a multi-dot fight. You could also do a light movement. If this is also valuable to see how stat scaling might change or answers might change in like a typical raid encounter. I'm looking for pure value. I tend to just do patchwork 1 boss or patchwork 3 bosses have been my favorite as of late, but it's really preference. But I'd recommend patchwork light movement, 1 boss, 3 boss. Anything else, I just don't recommend for Shadow Priest. We could debate on that for days. And then from here, just do compare items. And by the way, you can keep doing a duplicate gear set and just kind of take what you've already got on the last one and just keep modifying it and keep incrementally. And then change the name of each new gear set, and then you can see the results and see, oh, which one ended up being higher. I forgot to name this one, so it's just a bunch of item names. So this was my baseline. I took off my corruption, so it's lower, but the stuff I randomly put in is higher than what I'm wearing by 857 DPS, but it's a lot more corruption, and I can't run corruption this high. My raid leader would bench me if I did that. So keep an eye on this corruption number here, and if you're like, crap, I messed up, I can't do this much corruption, go back to run sim again, and you know, you can go in and modify these until you get to the numbers that you want. Top Gear does a really good job with a slider, and I think I've shown enough of this. So you play around with it. Once you do it a few times, you'll get the hang of it. Might as well show you Top Gear really quick while I'm here. So Top Gear, it has a slider here that says, find me the best set in my bags, and this is how much I can wear, or I don't want to run any. You can fix this number, and as you slide it, it tells you how much corruption you're going to be running. So for us, 39 is the max that we're being told to run in Mythic Progress this coming week, because if you go to 40, you get the next thing from beyond, and it's just something they just don't want to deal with in raid progress. But if this changes, you can just change the slider, you know, accordingly. So I hope you guys got some value out of this, and hopefully you will not be cleansing crit or your haste gear or your gushing wounds. Do not cleanse your stuff. You're gonna regret it. Blizzard is buffing and nerfing things constantly, so save things in your bags, especially, you know, for the first 2-3 weeks. It might settle down after that, and keep checking back your raid bots. I will try to, again, share what I've learned as I learn it, but I mean, I can barely keep up with the stuff, so and even other websites I've noticed can't either, and barely raid bots. So again, try to just stay on top of it yourself. I think it's really interesting and cool stuff. I encourage you guys to build your own sets of corruption gear, find something that is great, and I think it's kind of cool. Like, it's like fishing for secrets, and I think it's cool stuff. So hopefully this was useful. Later.